wasn't the matriarchal structure of the tribes. The men in the tribal structure of matriarchy are required to do men shit. In the feminist movement, the men are required to pretend to be women. Because on the patriarchal side of the coin, the patriarchs, all of them are boy lovers. They still Romans, still at the end of the day. So they want to usurp the matriarchy with the feminist movement, and people ain't even paid attention that half of the original feminists was drag queens. Teaching that doctrine to the women as if it's the doctrine of the matriarchy in order to confuse the genetic memory of the people. We know that the women can manage the household and that the men hold a specific function, but if the men is being systematically blocked from carrying a portion, then it makes it an off-balance system. And this is about how the feminists was able to undermine the rise of the matriarchs. But what he's talking about is total feminism. What you said right quick, because you said something that was that's real important to understand. It's not about being on different levels. It's about being on balance.
Right. I agree.
You remember when you go to Big Mama house for the barbecue, Big Mama is in the kitchen. She cooking collard greens, black-eyed peas, cornbread. But who outside barbecuing?
Daddy's outside at that grill.
That's Big Papa. That's Uncle Joe. That's Uncle Willie. They out there drinking and talking loud and barbecuing all around the barbecue while Big Mama in the kitchen cooking. That's balance. She can't cook and barbecue at the same time. That's balance. Right? The man is still needed. Who gonna grab that side of beef when we finna feed 250 people and drag it across the field and put it on the fire? That's Big Papa and them job.
That's right. Absolutely.
And while they out there doing that and chopping firewood for the barbecue, Mom and Auntie and them in there wiping snotty noses, changing diapers, giving babies baths that they got dirty throughout the day. You know, got aunties in the kitchen, weaving like a well-organized machine. We carrying out our family functions to help the family according to our skill set. So we learn to be trained in the area where we can best support the structure of the family as being functional. We have to remember, they put it on the record already that one of their prime tools of oppression was to break up our family structure because we was too strong. And this was the tribes doing this. This is how we lived. Everybody had something that your skill set made you qualified, you the most qualified, you obligated to fulfill the function. That's why I'm right here doing this conversation right now. Not because I want to, because I hate social media with a passion. I don't care what I hate. My people come first. I can get over it. I can live through the struggle. I'm built for this shit. You know, I can get punched in the face, but I'm going to punch back.
Okay.
Right? I don't mind it. It's the problem don't come in from the enemy because I can whoop their ass. The problem come in is from the friendly fire. The ones that's supposed to be supporting our return to the land and reclaiming our shit, but they got confused as to their own self-identity and think they from somewhere else. A fictitious place that don't exist. They from ancient Morocco. The word ain't even 500 years old. So how you from ancient Morocco? The word not ancient. You don't have an ancient map that say Morocco. When you pull up a map of the Americas and say what was the lay of the land tribally before 1492, I don't see Morocco on that list of tribes. They all listed. The major tribes across the land are listed from Canada all the way. If you want to, you can go into South America with it. But none of them is called Morocco. None of them is called Moor. They got names like Choctaw, Chickasaw, right? The terms that we got from the oppressors, like the Mohawk, the Tomahawk, them weren't original names. Them was exonyms, right? But we used the name because we was in a transition across the land. So we didn't care what they called us as long as we got to the Gullah War. We didn't know that they was genociding us on paper with these terms and replacing us with foreigners to pretend to be us.
Okay.
Right? So they disassociate us with the slave narrative, which was strictly for educational purposes only. It was created in Notre Dame University, and the slave ship proves it as the blueprint for where the narrative was drawn up. It was all under the directive of the French. And that's why the Eiffel Tower sits where the Treaty of Peace and Friendship was drawn up. And wasn't no tribal chiefs over there. Not one. We had nothing to do with that shit. That had nothing to do with us. You don't see nobody named Chief nothing on there. You don't even see no L's and Bays on there. Or no Ali's signing that peace treaty. So how is that our history? That's the dogma. Morals and dogma. Albert Pike, remember? The moral people are going to be the righteous people, and the righteous people are the people that's in the position of the right. Even if you call them civilly mortis, meaning they dead by the law, we only dead to the Admiralty jurisdiction that claim we crashed our landmass into their ship, the good ship Plymouth. Y'all, they switched the name in the history books and called it Mayflower now. But it's the Plymouth. And Malcolm said we didn't land on Plymouth Rock. Plymouth Rock landed on us. So when Lois and Clark is doing their survey, they trying to determine the extent of the wreckage from us crashing our landmass into their ship. So we all presumed dead and lost at sea, so they call us black. But it's also significant reference to those stealthy priests that wore the color commonly associated with the term. The Black Wolf Clan, the Black Eagle Clan, the Black Hawk Clan, the Blackfoot Clan, right? The Black Cougar Clan, which we know today is the Black Panther Clan. All these different clans are the clans that's fighting the actual conjure war of self-identity lost in a contract, a blood oath, then the secondary constitution that's kept in the George Washington Masonic Memorial was written in the blood of the Chief Crispus Attucks in order to keep us under the conjure spell. It's the same as the continuation of the ancient spell of Kingu that's put us in this Kali Yuga. When you break one, you break them all. It's cycles within cycles, and if you don't never break out the cycles, you're stuck in an infinity loop, forever repeating the same bullshit over and over until you get it right. The exit from the infinity loop is where the pieces all meet in the middle, on both sides. It's an 8 on this side. 6 over the 9 makes an 8. 69 is balance. This is why they say he stood on Pisces and Vesica Pisces. It's the same thing, 2 water signs. One is a crab and one is 2 fish. And the crab is a crip. Unless he a crip on the flip, then he's a Pyru with the C on his side. It's 2 tribal knocks in the code that we have to figure out. And all it is, the fish is, I will make you fisher of men. Well, you first got to make me a fish hook. So King James bent the I into a J to conceal who Isis was, so we'll be perpetually confused. Because if you straighten out the J, it's going to go right back to Isis. That means it's going to be returned back to mama. So you teach a man to fish, and he can eat for a lifetime. I'm a fishing motherfucker. My mama taught me to fish at an early age.
The
The
way
ship
that
narrative doesn't make sense. The slave ship narrative is it defies all logic. They said we was packed in the hull of the ship like sardines, man to man, foot to head. Right? And the construction that they was using for them wooden ships back then, that's a gas chamber in 2 days. You got to remember, you got 9 seafaring people on the ocean. What happened to you when you get seasick? Don't you get nauseous?
Absolutely.
So that means you're going to be throwing up. So it's going to be vomit. You're going to be full of vomit down there because there's a whole bunch of people that's not seafaring. Right? Then, to take it a step further, you're going to have bathrooms. Ain't no bathrooms.
Same
So
question.
where they shitting and pissing at? Back then, they used to shit on something called the poop deck. And this is where you get your term swab the deck. That means go clean the bathroom, motherfucker. There's shit everywhere. But if you got that many people shackled and chained, you can't run bathroom breaks enough for everybody to get relief. So it's going to be a whole lot of buildup of fecal matter and urine in the hull of the ship. Anybody that didn't smell hot piss know that ammonia going to be kicking. You ever smell a bottle of ammonia?
Yes.
Okay, imagine that shit everywhere. It's a gas chamber. This is supposed to be a 90-day journey. It's only a 2-week journey from Europe to New York. Y'all got to pay attention.
Right.
It's a 2-week journey from Europe to New York. It's a 90-day journey from Africa to the islands, where they call it the Middle Passage.
In the 1500s.
That don't make no fucking sense. That's a convenient story to separate your identity away from the land. It's more likely that the people on the slave ship died off than the people from the land died off. Basic logistics and basic critical thinking would tell you that. If we in the open air, they in the closed chamber. It's a difference. Right? So some of us probably did die off from the diseases that the Europeans brought.
They died off on this land. Why not?
We still dying from shit that they brought. Why we ain't stopped dying from the shit that they brought if we still here? I'm Mississippi clay dirt walking. I know where I'm from. My roots go right down that Mississippi River. Mississippi red clay dirt walking. You can smear me with it, and if you didn't know that I was smeared with it, you wouldn't even know I had dirt on me. I know where I'm from. It's not a secret. And the earth tells me where I'm from by the resonance of what we call the nativity. The nativity of the Christ. The anointing. The anointing is the oils. The oils are in the ground that's telling us where we come from. But we want to go with the narratives that other people tell us who we is rather than following what our ancestors told us. Here's the thing. Go to the roots. Fiddler is telling the people when Kunta Kinte get there, this is the African Guinea nigga. See, we don't know nothing about no Africans. We was already here. Why is this in the slave movie? Why is this fiddler saying we don't know nothing about no Africans?
I remember that too.
Right? So they telling you, but they still shrouded in a fairy tale. So we don't have a personal issue with Africans.
No.
Because they got done the same way we did. But I can tell you this, in the 1800s, they took some of us and set up a whole nation over there called Liberia.
Liberia, I knew you was gonna say it. You better talk. You better talk.
So we know they took us over there. And we know that all of the Africans that I didn't talk to, none of them have it in their historical record of mass amounts of people being extracted from the land. It don't exist. But what you do have is 10 to 12 here and there being snatched up by Arab slave traders before they rally the troops. Right? That's been going on long before the slave trade. The Arabs started that shit, they financed it, and Europe carried it out. But we didn't know that the Europeans carrying it out looked like us, because they whitewashed them in the history books, so we could always look at the pale face as the guilty culprit, when they just used the pale face to keep us out of institutions. So Big Mama said, don't worry about it. Bring them all over here, the ones they don't want, and we're going to educate them and send them in to overrun their institutions and put the secrets out in the open. So when Noble Drew Ali came, he gave them the green light. What happened? We had something called the spiritualist movement in the 1900s, where they was doing the rapping and tapping on the tables to tell us in the future what was going on in the past. So when we picked up hip hop, we started rapping and tapping on the tables and spitting the past out in the present. It's the old conjure. That's from New Orleans. That's the whole rapping conjure is a New Orleans based conjure from root magic in the deep woods of the motherfucking Louisiana bayou. That's where it come from with the old juke joints. This is where jazz come from. Rock and roll, bluegrass, country music. It all comes from that conjure, because we always believed in putting the message on the drum. And all of them needed the drum, except for Scott Joplin. He used the piano because that's what they brought with them when they came from Europe. They didn't never expect that we would be able to learn to master the piano and come up with our own music that made that classical music sound like shit. So Scott Joplin said, let me ever go at it. And they called it ragtime. And it was the birth of the music industry, selling his sheet music for a penny a page. And he wasn't getting a dime of it. Old sharecropper agreements. You created and we gonna capitalize on it. Benjamin Franklin discovered electricity with a key on the kite, and he didn't get fried. Make that shit make sense. Because he sure would have been fricassee. He would have been roast cracker. If that motherfucking lightning would have hit the key with that string on there. He forgot lightning followed the path of least resistance. The key becomes a conductor and the electricity shoot both ways up the string. And we supposed to believe that shit? The first automobiles being made over here, they credited to a paleface, but it was brothers who was already driving cars in the 1800s first. They the ones who was creating those crank up engines. They still got the flyers. You can find the flyers from the brothers' cars that was back then. They want us to not know who we is, but we always know our handiwork if we the salt of the earth. What do salt do to your food? Don't it balance out all the flavors? Okay, so what do we use to balance out the society? We use arts and entertainment. And this is how they brought the sharecropper agreement into the entertainment industry. So they can capitalize on the natural expression of the people and monetize that shit for themselves and their self-gain. We do have every race in the genome of the dark mother, right? What we call races, they're not races, they tribal genetic types, right? But the term race is applied to the game of the gods in trying to race to the conclusion of the closing of the age. So when we use in the races in terms like melding pot, one drop of blood, stuff like this, they're telling us in code what's taking place. So this takes us to what Bobby Hemmett calls the great debauchery, where the natural evolutionary process of humans was interrupted by scientists in a laboratory that caused genetic mutations. You're going to notice in about 20 years that mutations are going to start to decrease because all of those mutations now are under scrutiny by the mitochondria, who is the factor that clears up genetic defects in Y chromosomes and X chromosomes.